Hey everyone, just one moment. It doesn't appear like they sell any Astromech Deadpool costumes there, Gb1, but how do you think I'll look in leather? We call that pleasantly plump, and I see your point. It looks like we gotta go to our backup. Hey everyone, and welcome to Groove Builders, the show where we create together. I'm your host, Disorderly Cone, and this is my friend Gb1. It's typically Marvel movie night in the TARDIS today, and we like to put on costumes for it. Unfortunately, none of our costumes fit, so we're gonna have to do the next best thing and check out the Metal Earth Marvel Deadpool. This build has been giving modelers out there a very hard time, and not just because of all the interesting shapes that we have to bend, but because of all that tightly put together detail. Now, what tips can we use to get past that? What tools do you need to build Deadpool's suit, and why does everyone keep using #LegDay on their Instagram posts? That's a good question, Groove Builders. Let's get down to the workbench and take a look at the package.
Groove Builders, welcome to the workbench. We have our Metal Earth Deadpool and some really awesome Marvel packaging. And take a look at Deadpool. This is going to be a really intense build. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back. On the back, we get some brief instructions on how to build our model, and then over here on the right, we have a difficulty rating of just over medium. This might be one of the more difficult builds we've done here so far on the show. Then just below that, we have a QR code which we can scan to get a 360 look at our build. This comes in handy when we're putting little bits of detail on, like our little unicorn and maybe our swords. Groovers, let's go ahead and take a look inside. We have our instructions. Whoa. And we have our metal. Look at this stuff. It's not really shiny. It's actually kind of, I don't know, almost like a matte finish. Very interesting. We got our little belt there. There's the head. Very neat. Backpack and stuff. And we got our little unicorn. Very cool. All right, Groovers, let's take a look at our first couple of steps. Okay, there's quite a bit here. A whole 7 pages worth of detail. Looking a little closer, we might need to be a little patient with this build. The first thing we need to take a look at are the legs to see why everyone's talking about them. The second thing will be all this add-on detail here, like the straps. And finally, we look at shaping Deadpool's beautiful shoulders and mug. Oh, Gb1, cut it out. But before we jump into all that, let's touch on the basics for all those crazy people out there that might be trying to build this as their first model. First things first, these metal models require us to cut out our pieces, then shape them using whatever we can. Once we have our parts correctly shaped, we can connect them together by bending or twisting our tabs. The way we bend or twist our tabs is indicated in the instructions by these circles and triangles. Personally, I try to follow the instructions the first time when it comes to bending our tabs if I can. Then, when the build is complete, I'll go over everything again and try to change anything that might stand out. I like to make my tabs as invisible as possible. With these color models, that can be tricky. But with a little bit of love and patience, you can get that museum quality you hear so much about.
Next up, we have our tools. Now, what tools do we need to build Deadpool? That's a weird question. But don't worry, we got a Dalek for that. Timothy?
Hello, I am Timothy, the tool expert. Building Deadpool, a never-dying soldier of death, is a pleasure to behold. To build this inferior but oddly good-looking build, you will need nippers, tweezers, pliers, and dapping punches.
Did I just hear a Dalek give some admiration for something other than a Dalek? Huh. As always, Groove Builders, these are just our recommendations, and you really don't need anything but nippers and tweezers to get the job done. But of course, having the right tools will make your life a lot easier. Alright, Groovers, we've looked at all of our instructions, and we have all of our tools. There's only one thing left to do. Are you stuck in a rut, feeling a little bit bent, lost in your instructions? Hi, I'm Dr. Disorderly Cone, and this is my bottle of Like and Subscribe. With Like and Subscribe, we can find a cure for all of your metal model needs. That's right, with just 2 clicks of Like and Subscribe, you'll find happiness at the end of your tweezers. Don't let this offer pass you by. Like and subscribe now. Seriously. I'm waiting. Good job! Alright, let's get to the build.
Deadpool from the Metal Earth Marvel line is a big model, and to be honest, I'm really surprised it isn't a premium build with how tall this model ends up being. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The first thing we need to look at are the legs for Deadpool. Both of our legs here are made up of a lot of parts. Getting these parts to the right shape so that all that outer detail can fit on is key. To make everything as uniform as possible, I recommend using a dapping set to help you consistently bend the leg shapes. They aren't really cylinders, but oddly shaped cones, and that's a good way of thinking about it at least. And these conious shapes then fit together. When connecting the tabs, you will need to pre-bend them and then line them up before attaching them together. Forcing the tabs or the piece to stretch is never a good idea because you could accidentally warp, break, or possibly even scratch that beautiful paint job. If you find the tabs are a little bit far away, it just means you need to make the cylinder shape a little bit smaller. Deadpool doesn't have saddlebags, remember? After adding the lower legs with part 16, we can insert part 15 inside. Now we just need to repeat this with the other side. Boom! Those are some really nice looking legs. Adding them to the stand is pretty simple too, but where I started to mess up was on part 29. That's Deadpool's underpants. I was able to shape this part really nicely using my fondant/dapping set, and I really recommend using it for some of these more rounded pieces. When I was happy, I started working on installing both legs. This is where I messed up. You see, I installed it on backwards. Yep, those 3 tabs in the back are actually needed on the front, and it took me a little bit to realize this. Taking this whole thing apart absolutely sucked. Don't be me. Always check to make sure that you're installing your pieces on correctly so you don't have to take things apart like this. I spent way too much time on Deadpool's crotch. The second thing we need to take a look at is all of this tricky add-on detail. Not that kind, Gb1, but these ones are just as fun. It starts with part 8 and 14, but almost all the straps follow the same method to get them connected. We need to bend every square millimeter of the metal to make sure that we have enough strap to close the tab. Again, using a dapping set is a great idea, but even using this method, you'll find that you'll have to put extra pressure on the strap to get it in place. Pre-bending your tabs is a must if you're looking to hide your tabs under the straps. If you find that the strap is just not making it, double check to make sure your body isn't too thick. I found at the end of my build when I was trying to connect the shoulder pads, I had my arms slightly off. I went over them again to make them a little bit smaller. This made it way easier for me to be able to put the shoulder pads in place. One thing you really need to be careful of though when adding extra detail on in later stages is the swords on the back. Yes, they look really cool, but because we put them on so early, they actually get bent out of shape really easily if we're not too careful. And speaking of bending things out of shape, the third and final thing we're going to look at is the shoulders and head of Deadpool. The shoulders, part 35, require us to push out the back and bend the tops of the shoulders over. If we look in and around the neck area, we can see 2 tabs on either side. This is a great marker for us to use to know where to bend the shoulders. Grab your shaping tool and slowly begin to bend the shoulders, mirroring whatever you do on the left side on the right hand side too. When you're happy, press the tabs into place and don't forget to pop up the little tabs on the shoulders. They won't be easy to grab later. A good way of knowing if everything is lining up is how well part 36 goes into place. If everything marries well, it's time to put our head on. Now when it comes to 3D metal models, and particularly Metal Earth models, how you shape your head will make or break how this whole thing looks. I can't stress enough the importance of going slow and not dragging your tools on any of the outer parts of the metal. For Deadpool's head, I used my cake decorating / dapping set to roll the individual petals of the head. Rolling them like this makes it very easy to secure the tabs in place and leaves you with a really nice rounded finish. I also recommend doing this on the left and right side of the head just to get a really nice definition look, but try not to go overboard. Deadpool's head is not a sphere.
And there we go, Groove Builders, we did it! We built the Metal Earth Marvel Deadpool! This build looks fantastic when it's complete. The guys over at Metal Earth did a fantastic job of engineering this model, coming up with a good design, and then overall, really doing a good job on the coloring as well. I really like the flat matte look of this piece, and I feel that the color is a lot stronger than what we were originally dealing with in the Legends line, if you will. Now that being said, this build is not for beginners. I'm going to go out there and say it right now. Do not buy this build if this is your first attempt at a metal model. This is something you want to do if you've had a couple of builds under your belt and you're not necessarily afraid of trying something that's going to take a lot of time and patience to complete. You really do have to make sure that every bend here is exactly to what dimension it needs to be in order for these straps to fit correctly. So for these reasons, I really don't think this model should be marked just over medium. I really think this model should be marked on the hardest scale possible to illustrate the amount of time, patience, and overall skill needed to complete it. Alright, Groove Builders, that brings us to the end of our show. I had a really good time building Deadpool with you, and if you guys had a good time, don't forget to press that like button. For more videos like this, hit subscribe as well, as we got all kinds of really cool content coming out in the future. Want to help the channel grow and possibly pick up your own Deadpool model? Check out groovebuilders.ca. We got all kinds of really cool models on there at great prices with fast shipping. Alright, now I'm going to go put this down in the movie theater and hope it doesn't obscure the screen. Until next time, Groove Builders, keep building.